What is the biggest loss you've experienced in, let's say, a business or something along those lines?
I mean, I've missed deals that are worth $100 million. Some big ones come by sometimes and you miss them, but you can't, hindsight's 2020.
Damn.
It was a good lesson to learn.
What it do, what it does, me being where you was, but it ain't what it is. Facing the mud, I really be hating the mud, said I can't pick it up, but I did.
What's up, guys? How's it going? This is Kazi from Clever Programmer. Today, we have Ryan Carson on our podcast. And some of you might actually know him. A lot of you will know him when I tell you one of the companies that he's actually founded. But he is the founder of Personified, Dropson, and Team Treehouse. Over the last 22 years, he's the CEO and founder of 3 companies and 1 nonprofit, and he's helped over 600,000 people learn how to code. Okay, so that is pretty epic. For a lot of you who know Team Treehouse, drop it in the comments below. I'm very excited and grateful that he took his time to be on this podcast. And I got a lot of questions for him because he's now jumping into the Web3 space, and I want to know what he knows and hopefully bring you guys that value. So with that said, I'm going to shut my mouth. Ryan, welcome on board.
Kazi, it is good to be here. I've respected you for a long time, what you've built. It's a lot of fun to talk shop. So let's get to it.
Awesome, man. So thanks for jumping on here. I mean, a lot has happened since we even last spoke, which was a week ago. And then before that, a few years ago, we spoke. Talk to me kind of where you're at right now, because I know that I think you've exited Team Treehouse. And so kind of talk to me what led to you doing that.
You bet. So I started Treehouse more than a decade ago. And, the reason why is because I got a computer science degree and then I got a job. And then I realized you didn't need the computer science degree. And a lot of people were being held out, outside of the industry for no good reason. And so the thought was, hey, let's launch an affordable, accessible school. And I loved being able to do that, building Treehouse and empowering over 600,000 people to get better jobs, to build wealth for their families is the most meaningful work I've ever done. And I'm so grateful I was able to be part of that. Yeah. Through that journey, it was my 3rd company, learned a lot, about how to be a CEO, how to run a large organization, made some mistakes, learned a lot through the way. And in the end, it felt like it was time for a new owner of Treehouse to come in and take it to the next level. And found a wonderful acquirer that came in and is going to take Treehouse to that next level. And then I was able to step back and just kind of breathe for a minute. So the interesting thing was my very first investor is a guy named Kevin Rose, and he started a site called Dig a long time ago. And really became a well-known investor, founder. And he was my first investor. And so he and I have known each other for almost 15 years now. Wow. And so when this was, when my Treehouse journey was kind of winding down, he and I were messaging each other, and he said, hey, I've started this podcast called Modern Finance. And it's all about blockchain and it's about crypto. And he said, you should give it a listen. And I had paid attention a little bit to blockchain. Back, I think it must have been, I don't remember when, but when Mt. Gox was out, I bought some Bitcoin. It was hard and confusing and kind of forgot about it. And then Mt. Gox got hacked and I lost all my Bitcoin and I just kind of gave up. I just thought,
damn, how many Bitcoin?
I don't know. And I don't want to find out because it's just going to make me sad. But, so I, like everyone, I just thought, I don't really get it. I lost my money. I'm just going to move on. So I hadn't really thought much about crypto, blockchain, anything until Kevin sort of said, hey, you should pay attention. And so as my Treehouse journey was winding down, I began to listen to his podcast. And I just, listened to every single episode. And I think as I was listening to it, it's just like the light bulb went off and I just knew, this is bigger.
So can you give
everything.
me can you give me some insight into what were some of the things that maybe Kevin Rose said on his podcast that made you go, that clicked? Because for a lot of people, the click is missing. They're like, I can see you can send money, and I can see you can get rug pulled, but like, what's the click? Deal? Right. Because a lot of developers think, okay, is it just hype or is this reality? And what's happening? So what were some of the things that you would say for you clicked or kind of went aha, like you had that aha moment?
So the first thing was the very first podcast. The guest, his name was DC Investor, and he talked about NFTs. And I didn't understand what an NFT was. So as I was listening to that episode, I was driving in my car. He explained, how can a digital item have a unique owner? How does that work? Because it's so anti-intuitive, right? You think, well, can I just right-click save? Like, I don't understand how someone can own a digital asset. That's true. As he explained it and how NFTs work and how you can prove, the provenance and the owner of a digital asset, I think that's when I went, oh my God, this will change everything. Because as soon as I realized, digital assets can be unique and the ownership can be proven, all the alarm bells started going off. I started thinking about, well, wait a minute, that means every industry is going to change. So it wasn't even about JPEGs. It was this idea of, well, why isn't the deed to your house an NFT? That should be the case. This should live on the blockchain. And as soon as that started happening, I realized, oh my God, this is going to change everything. And then it was a process of like learning, and at first I didn't understand it all. So I just started learning and watching YouTube videos. And I think that's when it became clear that a decentralized global computer that can never be changed, once the state is set, will change the world, because you then can separate everything else from these walled vertical gardens that we lived in. And then I was just like all in. It's almost like it became my religion.
Wow. That's powerful. I guess like some of the questions that I remember I used to have, so I'll ask them because I know a lot of people on our platform are beginner software developers or maybe have some years of experience, but still might be considering it, is like when you're looking into and you're like, okay, I can own an asset. So I remember playing, let's say I played this game called Borderlands a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
And back in those days, they had come up with this new concept of DLCs, downloadable content.
Yeah.
And games just blew up because you just buy all these. I was buying, like when I was playing FIFA, I was buying Messi and all these big players and all these cards. And so they were like, what you would call an NFT card, but like I was getting access to Messi. And I'm like, I'm able to prove that I own that and not other people own it because, well, I bought it. It's in my account. And when Ryan logs into his account, he doesn't have it. So in my mind,
you have it.
Yeah. So doesn't that already mean I have digital ownership? Just like I'll buy a movie, I own it. You go into your Amazon account, you don't have it, but I have it. So I feel like I already have digital ownership. So what is this digital ownership you're talking about?
Well, can you sell that Messi? No. So this is the problem, right? So you don't own anything. This is the great Web2 trick, right? Yeah. So we have all these walled gardens, right? So, or gaming platforms, for instance, you think that you bought that DLC and you own it and it's a flex. Like, when you're in the game, people can see you have, a jersey or a player. Wow. Kazi's got this expensive player, respect. And then you actually realize you don't own anything, because as soon as you want to take that value out of the game, you can't. And so this is the key, right? So NFTs are composable. So what that means is if you own a digital asset, you own it everywhere, right? So it's not locked into a vertical garden. So for instance, if you're on Facebook right now, and you have a certain number of followers, for instance, you can't take those followers anywhere else, right? You don't own them. So what everybody is realizing is that if I can digitally own an asset, then I actually digitally own it. And that means I can take that asset and I can sell it to anybody. So a good example
makes sense.
Is, so there's these games that are coming out now. A good example is Axie Infinity. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of
Okay.
it. It's like the biggest one, right? They're doing like $200 billion a week, like something ridiculous like that. I remember when I saw it, I was like, whoa, their market cap was huge too.
Yeah. So for those of you that are listening that are trying to understand this, a game like Axie launched, and what happens is you go onto the game and you have to buy your Axie, which is an animal. And think of it as Pokemon. So you have these animals and they battle each other. They're called Axies. But in order to play, you have to buy an Axie. Now, what if you can't afford the Axie? Well, let me back up. So you buy an Axie.
Yeah.
And they can be expensive. I don't actually know right now how much an Axie trades for, but say it's $500. It's a lot of money. And so say you came on and you bought an Axie, you would then battle it with other Axies. And if it wins, then you unlock SLP, or a smooth love potion. And smooth love potion, if you make enough of it, it allows you to mint or create another Axie. So all of a sudden you're able to create something that is worth $500 by winning. So it's like, oh, wait a minute. So by playing this game, I can actually create an asset that is inherently valuable. So I started off with one Axie at $500. I battled a bunch. I won, and I was able to create another one. And all of a sudden I made back my initial $500. Well, now I've got two Axies. Why don't I keep battling? Right. And then you unlock more SLP, and then you mint another Axie, and all of a sudden you've made $500 net. So and now the crazy thing. So this is the exciting thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's great that I have $500, but can I actually have the $500, please? Yes. What you do is you take your SLP, you go to Uniswap, and you swap it for US dollars. So, this is the connection. Like, you actually own that asset, and you can extract the US dollars or Canadian dollars or British pounds or whatever. So Web 2 was a big trick, like basically. And all of us got tricked. Like, we ended up working very hard on other people's platforms to build value for them.
I see.
So you're working really hard on YouTube, and YouTube, you're getting, ad revenue off that, you're getting followers off that and subscribers. But the truth is, you don't own anything. You're a digital serf on their kingdom. And so this is the big switch is like actually owning the content. Now, yes, there's a ton of scammers, and yes, there's a bunch of rug pulls, but this happened when e-commerce launched in Web 1, right? Yeah. Everybody was scared about putting your credit card in a website.
That's true.
Yeah, this is like 2001, right? So, of course, people are afraid, and of course, there were scammers, but that doesn't mean the platform was bad or that it was inherently evil. All it was technology was advancing. So I think that's what's happening with Web3.
Got it. Wow. This is really cool. Like, even it reminds me of, I started doing this options trading one time, and I went into this platform, and then I won some money, and then I tried to take it out, and they just like locked it, and I couldn't take it out. And I was like, fuck. And I was freaking out.
Because you didn't own it.
Right. And this happened with me even one time with a long time ago. I don't know if it was Coinbase or no, it was like some other service I was using. And I was trying to sell my Bitcoin because they were going down that day, and I couldn't. They locked it.
Yeah.
And so that was super frustrating. But it feels like with this, that's not really likely to happen because I own it, right? So I can.
No, you own it, and nobody can stop you from sending it or trading it or using it. So take this for instance. So one of the big, now when we say Web3, what we're talking about is a couple of different things, right? We're talking about blockchains. So
so what is Web3? I guess just so everybody can understand. So we're saying Web 2, Web3, Web 1. What is Web3, Ryan?
So Web3 is a group of technological innovations put together. So it's number one, blockchains, right? So we have these global immutable databases called blockchains, right? So Bitcoin was the first, right?
Yeah.
And then on Ethereum launched after that.
Right.
These are both proof of work, which means that you have these computers that compete for the right to be able to save these blockchains, and then they get rewarded for that. It's expensive and bad for the environment. So now the blockchains are moving to what's called proof of stake, which is not energy intensive. It's very green. And so you have blockchains. So that's number one. And so Bitcoin was the first, and you can't build applications on top of Bitcoin.
Right.
There's no smart contracts. There's something now called stacks, which you can, but it's new. So Bitcoin is really just a ledger that you can write transactions to and data to. Great. It also has a token called Bitcoin. So it's a little confusing that the network is called Bitcoin and the token's called Bitcoin.
Got it.
Then the next layer one launch is Ethereum. It has the ability to write smart contracts. So you can now program on top of this network, right? So you're going to hear terms like Solidity, which is a programming language that you write smart contracts. And smart contracts is just another word for programs. So a lot of your viewers have maybe tried learning Solidity. If y'all haven't, do it. There's so much demand for Solidity developers. It's just crazy. So that's blockchains. Now, the next thing you have on top of that is something called DeFi, or decentralized finance. So once you have blockchains and people have the right to interact directly with each other without anybody's permission, right? So for instance, as soon as I have Ether in my MetaMask wallet and you have Ether in your MetaMask wallet, we can transact with each other and we don't have to get permission from any government, any bank, or anybody. That's called permissionless or trustless. We don't have to trust each other, right? Because code is what combines us, right? So as soon as you can transact, then you can do decentralized finance. Now, the reason why this is so exciting is because we used to have to go, to the NASDAQ or to our bank or to PayPal and say, can I please send this person? And they'd say, well, I don't know. Tell me where you live first. Tell me who you are. I don't know if you can send that much money today, and there's all these controls around you, and some of them are good. But as soon as you have decentralized, permissionless, trustless transaction, then you can do DeFi. So a good example of DeFi is if I have, one Ether and you have $3,000 and we want to trade that, how do we do it without a bank or without Coinbase? So what you do is you go to SushiSwap or Uniswap, and there's this amazing bit of code called an automated market maker, which will allow us to trade tokens with each other trustlessly. And it's amazing. It's just code, and you don't have to worry, like, do I have the Ether and do you have the US dollars, because either you do or you don't. And if you do, then you can trade. So DeFi is a big part of Web3. And then you have NFTs. So NFTs, they're a standard. It's called ERC 721 or ERC 1155. And what that is, digital ownership of assets. And people are fixated right now on, punks or apes or JPEGs, but this is not this is not the true power of NFTs. The true power is any asset in the world is going to be on the blockchain, right? So anything you can own will eventually be on the blockchain. So you combine these things together, and the whole world's going to change. I mean, I've been around to see Web 1, Web 2, and I'm all in. Like, I know that this is where the future is going, and we're super early, but it's very, very exciting.
Which is why everybody says good morning, right?
Because we're early.
Yeah, it took me a second to learn that on Twitter. I was like, why is this happening?
What is everybody saying?
Right. So, look, Ryan, you're retired, right? But what that basically means is you have money to live for the rest of your life. Why work, and why are you doing something with Web3 right now?
It's just so exciting. It's so exciting. I mean, the most important thing, Maslow's hierarchy, right? So
Yeah.
at the base level, you need to be able to survive, right? You need to be
Yeah.
able to have shelter. I need to be able to eat.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that base layer of Maslow's hierarchy is filled, then you can move up and say, okay, now I can feed myself and I have shelter. Okay, now I want to start earning enough money that I can save money, right? So I can plan for the future. Once you can do that, then you move up the next level.
Yeah.
And then once you can save enough, then the next goal is to become independently wealthy. Okay, I have enough money that my money works for me and pays me, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what makes people ultimately happy. What makes people happy is having purpose.
Yeah.
And doing something that makes you feel useful.
Yeah.
And so in the end, I just saw what was happening with Web3. My good friend Kevin, had started Proof, this exciting project, and I just thought, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of a team.
Got it.
And it's just so much fun. Like, I'm actually working too much because I can't stop myself. Like, I was on Twitter doing a Twitter Spaces last night till like 11:30. I'm like, I need to go to bed. Like, what am I doing?
Oh, that's sick. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'd love to hop in there next time.
They're fun.
Yeah, that is super cool. So I guess talk to me about what is happening in this, right? So you jumped into this, you're interested, you're like, I want to do this. One thing before we get into kind of what you're doing with Proof is if you're a developer, why should a Web2 developer move into and do stuff with Web3?
Okay. The reason why is you need to skate where the puck is going. Okay. So, and you want to be joining companies that are truly innovating, right? So you could stay in Web2 and make a ton of money and have a great career for a long time. Facebook's not going anywhere. Google's not going anywhere. Twitter's not going anywhere. These companies are going to be around for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. And also getting stock options in those companies is still going to be great, but if you want to work on something that's truly exciting and innovative and allows you to potentially make generational wealth at this stage, then you need to be thinking about Web3. And here's why. Okay, if you go back in time, I think we're at about 1997. So when you go back in time and think, okay, where was the world at in 1997? You had the very beginnings of the internet.
Yeah.
And the consumer internet, right? Mm-hmm. And you started to see the Googles being built, right? And they were very early, right? Yeah. And we are there now. So what we're seeing is we have Web3 companies that will absolutely be the infrastructure of the future, right? So when you think about all the L1 blockchains, you have Solana, Near, Tezos, Avalanche, and then you have the layer 2 blockchains, Arbitrum, Optimism. And then if you have all the tooling companies,
too, right?
Yeah, Polygon, right? These are going to be the infrastructure that the world is built on, right? Be there, right? Because this is like being able to work at Google in 1997. And what's even more exciting is this. So back in 1997, only Google employees got stock options, right? And VCs. Okay. But what's happening now is you can buy the tokens of these companies now, right?
Yes.
So you can go buy AVAX, which is the token for Avalanche, right now. And so this is like being able to be a VC back in 1997.
Yeah.
And let me tell you how powerful that is. This is where true wealth will be built. So if you want to be there and you want to take advantage, then do it. Like if you want to miss it, fine. But then the second thing I'll say is all the talent, and that's not fair. I would say the cutting edge talent, the folks that I truly respect that are building great things are leaving Web2, all of them, PhD scientists, senior architect developers, the best investors in the world, the best founders in the world. There's a mass exodus from Web2. And it's because there's just so many exciting things to be built in Web3. Yeah. And so I think what you can do is take your Web 2 dev skills. Great. If you're a full stack developer, awesome. All you need to do is go learn Solidity and then go apply to work at, Consensus or AVAX or Polygon or any one of these companies. People are begging for talent.
Yeah.
They're begging for talent.
Wow.
Right. And the salaries are matching, and you'll get a ton of tokens, a ton of options. Like, it's just.
What's the average salary of let's say junior developer in the blockchain world?
Well, the cool thing is everybody's a junior developer in the blockchain.
Yeah.
So
nice.
there's nobody that has 5 years of experience, right? I mean, so I would say an experienced Solidity developer is someone that's been doing it for like a year, right?
Huh. Wow.
So I think if you're kind of a junior dev now in Web 2, so say you're learning full stack JavaScript, and you're like, well, wait a minute, I want to go skate where the puck is going to.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn some Solidity on top of that. And you ship a real, and then what I would say to somebody is then write a smart contract that actually does something, put a few out in the world, and then apply for these jobs. And I just can't see you making any less than like 120 grand, like as a junior dev.
Damn.
And it's just because there's nobody that knows this stuff now. That will start to change. But then if you keep cranking, I mean, we're talking like 300 grand for experienced Solidity devs. Plus a bunch of stock options, plus a ton of tokens.
Yeah.
There's just, I just think that this moment doesn't happen very often, right?
I agree.
Like, I've seen 3 of them in my life, and this is one of those 3.
Wow. Dude, that is huge. And another thing, so I think a couple of things. Another thing is like people can even get, a lot of developers are even getting equity in these projects, right?
You get tokens. I mean, well, you get stock options, but even better, you get tokens. So the thing that's hard about Web 2 and stock options is that you can get a bunch of stock options, but if the company doesn't quite work out, then your stock options can be underwater, and that means they're worthless. And what's amazing about Web 3 is if you come in and say you work for Polygon and you get Matic tokens as part of your salary package, which you should, right? Yeah. So you'd say, okay, I want 120 base, and I want, X dollars worth of Matic tokens, which would vest. I mean, you can't just have them and sell them right away, and then stock options too. So you get this like triple package. But the beauty is those Matic tokens, they're traded on the open market, right? So the problem with getting stock options in a private company is you can't trade those. They're not liquid.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think Polygon is not going to go away, but say it didn't work out. If you just had Polygon stock options and they never went public, or the value was less than what you got it for, it would be worth nothing.
It'd be worth nothing.
If you get Matic tokens, it's literally like getting money, right? So as soon as they vest, just go onto Uniswap and swap them for USD, right? Yeah. It's real money.
That's one of the things you're saying is a problem. One of my good friends in LA was discussing with me. He's like, he worked for Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' company. And he's like, I got a bunch of options or whatever, but he's like,
they're illiquid.
But they're illiquid. And he goes, I don't know if Jeff is going to take this company public or not. And if he doesn't take it public, then in X amount of years, I won't be able to vest.
You get nothing. You get nothing.
Right.
Whereas
that's huge.
If you work for any Web3 company, they'll usually have a token. Now, some don't. So like a bunch of good quality projects like Arbitrum and Optimus, they don't have tokens yet.
Yeah.
OpenSea doesn't have a token. There's a couple projects that don't have tokens. So I think a
lot of companies in Web3 have tokens.
Though, they do.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that was something that was super interesting to me because, for example, I don't know if you know the company called Replit or Repl.com.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Online ID. In 2016 or 2017, I was sending a bunch of traffic there and he hit me up and he's like, hey, what the heck are you doing? And at that point, they weren't funded. They weren't this big company or whatever, right? If they had a token, I would have invested in them back then.
Yep.
And that would have been huge. And I would have told a lot of my audience to invest in them and that would have been massive. But 4 years later, now they're going to venture capital, right? Raising hundreds of millions and a bunch of bunch of those people are getting to invest in them and getting this
But
opportunity.
you're not.
But yeah, exactly. And I'm like, dude, that would have been so amazing if they had a token.
I know. See, Web3 rewards truly loyal fans and followers, right? So this is the beauty is the incentives are all aligned. So for instance, say that you take a job at Avalanche and you get your standard, package, plus you get some stock options. Great. But say you also get AVAX tokens.
Right.
Now, are you going to be aligned in hoping those AVAX tokens value goes up? Yes. You're going to you're going to truly care about Avalanche and its value going up because you are an owner, right?
Yes.
And in Web 2, I think you're sort of a pretend owner. Like, you can have these stock options. They're not really liquid and they're only worth something if eventually, the investors and the founders agree that the company is worth X. Whereas if you own AVAX tokens or Matic tokens on Polygon or Uni tokens on Uniswap, like you're an owner. You actually own part of the company. You own part of the market cap, and you can sell those.
Yeah.
And so you turn people into advocates, right? So everybody all of a sudden, it's so crazy. Like, so why are people? Let's take Dead Fellas as an NFT project that I love.
Right.
So so Dead Fellas, they're these kind of cute zombie like characters. I think the floor is maybe 3 ETH right now, which is about 12,000 or $9,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Why would I pay $9,000 for a JPEG and then tell everybody how excited I am about it? It's because I'm an owner. Like, and my incentives are aligned that I want to see Dead Fellas increase in value because I'm an owner. And I don't plan on selling those, but at some point, if I did, I win if the value goes up. Now, some people go, well, that's a call to Ponzi, right?
Right. That's a big one that a lot of people say. They're like, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme.
Well, but I think that's an oversimplification of economics, right? Everything's a Ponzi, right? So if I buy a Ford Fiat, I want Ford Fiats to be valuable. Like I don't want.
Yeah, that's true. You want to sell it for more.
Yeah, I don't want it to be worth less. So like if someone tells you like, do you love your car? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty great. I mean, you're always trying to get people excited about things you own because you have a vested interest. Now, it's no different in Web3, but you actually get to own it. Right.
Yeah.
If you go to Fortnite and say, well, I bought a skin and you want to flex, the truth is you don't own anything. And you can't sell it. You're a digital slave on their platform.
Do you think in future, even purchasing cars and homes will be on the blockchain?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
We'll
cool. look back and think it's just hilariously primitive that we had like pieces of paper. Like you have a deed and you can like lose it. It'll be all on the blockchain.
What's funny is that I jokingly always say like Web3 is kind of like going in the past because we went from CRUD to just CRA. Like update and delete is just gone.
Yeah.
They're like, there you go. That's the blockchain.
It's gone. Yeah, exactly. It's
immutable data types.
Yeah, forever. I mean,
right.
It's just so exciting. And there is this kind of backlash by part of the Web2 community against Web3, and I just don't understand it. It's like getting angry at electricity when it came out.
Oh yeah.
I just the future is here, and you can either embrace it and
I think
part of it, or you can fight it.
Yeah, I think it's frustrating when it's hard to grasp your mind around it. I won't lie. Sometimes it frustrates me to go, I have to spend $2,000 to deploy a function. And then one of my friends was like, oh, yeah, because it had like arrays and you have to loop through it. I'm like, what fucking function doesn't have arrays and you have to loop through it?
No. Yeah, so like, it feels like a backward step, right?
So those things, or sometimes for the transaction to go through or like my money to move, sometimes on the Ethereum blockchain, it's like,
it's very expensive.
Yeah, it's backed up. There are a lot of people online and now it takes 40 minutes. And I'm like, geez, that is so long. But I think a lot of this is being developed and there, prices are going to keep going down as the technology keeps getting developed. So I think
sort of
keep improving.
So people need to understand this. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why it's expensive to transact on Ethereum is because it is secure and it is decentralized, right? So let's back this up for a minute, right? So the Ethereum network is secured by thousands of nodes, right? This is literally people running little servers. I have one in my house that's running the complete Ethereum blockchain on that node. Now, what happens is when I think Ethereum does around 7 transactions a second. Now, that's not enough, right? So the whole world is competing to get included in those blocks, which means it gets more expensive. Okay, so now what? What do we do? Now, you either you have to sacrifice one of these things, either decentralization, speed, or security, right? So what is going to happen? We're just in this temporary phase where gas is very high on Ethereum mainnet, so layer 1. We're going to be moving to layer 2, right? So in the future, you're going to be deploying your contracts on Arbitrum or Optimism. You're never going to touch Ethereum.
Or what about Polygon?
Or Polygon, right?
So got it.
Now, we're just in this weird phase where humans are interacting with Ethereum, and that's not going to happen in the future. And people sort of, and newsflash, gas prices are not going to go down on Ethereum.
But I mean, if you use Polygon, don't they market it like it's Ethereum, but with low gas fees? No,
they do. So this is layer 1 versus layer 2. So So layer 1 is the base blockchain. Think about it as the metal, right? You're dealing with the metal of the server. It's where all of the programs and the robots live. And then what happens is all of these transactions get rolled up to layer 2 gets rolled down to layer 1. And that's why, and it will be cheap on layer 2. But just have to give it some time. But also remember, if it's truly cheap and truly fast, then you increase spam, right? So there has to be some cost to transacting on the network.
Got it. And what are your thoughts on something like Solana, which is faster and it happens fast, but I'm sure there's some kind of drawback.
It's not decentralized.
Not decentralized. Got it.
I'm betting on all of these, right? So I own a bunch of Sol tokens because I think Solana, I think it's going to be a multi-blockchain world. And I think many of these blockchains are going to win. Now, I think Ethereum is going to be the primary blockchain, which is why I'm betting the most on, and I hold, the largest thing I hold is Ether. But a lot of these, alt L1s like Avalanche, Near, Phantom, and these side chains and L2s like Polygons, Arbitrums and Optims, I think they're all going to win. And it's a little bit like going back to 97 and sort of, complaining like, well, FTP is so hard and so slow. Well, it's like, because we're early. Yeah. Of course it's hard and slow.
Now it's like we've evolved from FTP and nobody uses it anymore, but at some point we did need to use it.
Right. I mean, if someone told you EC2, if you went back in time and you told someone from the past, like you're going to be able to spin up, a virtual machine in the cloud instantly for pennies on the dollar, you'd say, wow. And then they told you, actually, forget about it. There's going to be functions that live in the cloud. You're not even going to have the server infrastructure. You'd be like, I don't even understand that.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah,
exactly. So we're in FTP land here, people. Like, just be patient and look where the puck is sliding.
Absolutely. So let's transition a little bit into what, you moved into Proof. What made you move into Proof Collective? What is this project all about? And, kind of what your role is there. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
Sure. So like you said, I retired in December. And Kevin was like, hey, you've been listening to podcasts. I'm going to launch an NFT. And it's going to be a gated community. So if you hold the NFT, you can be a part of the community. And there's going to be 1,000 members. And it's called Proof Collective. And it's for serious NFT collectors. And we're going to have a lot of fun, so I'm going to launch it. And I was like, I'm in. I mean, that sounds super fun, so put me on the list. And he said, cool, I'll hold a pass back for you.
Yeah.
And so I bought one pass.
Yeah.
And this was like December 12th.
Wow.
And everything Kevin touches turns to gold. I mean, he is just an extremely good founder. He's a wonderful human. He has a really, really good sixth sense for product. So I just knew, I'm in. Like whatever Kevin's doing, I'm in. Yeah. So I joined this collective, which so you buy the NFT on OpenSea.
Yeah.
Actually, it was on proof.xyz.
And you could only get one NFT for this?
It depends. So there was what's called a Dutch auction.
Yeah.
Where the price is set high, and then every 15 minutes or X amount of minutes, it actually goes down in value. And it's a way to figure out what the price is. So
people could have bought multiple too, right? As it was going down.
Yeah, they could have bought. So it started off at 5 ETH, which at the time ETH was about $4,000. So it started off at 20K per pass. And you could have bought 10 if you wanted at 20K or 5 ETH or 4 ETH, 5 ETH. But most people are like, oh, that's really expensive. So some people bought at 5, and then it kind of started ticking down. It didn't all sell out at 5 ETH.
Why didn't you guys go the other way? Like,
well, because it would sell it instantly low. Right.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
You start at high, see, okay, how many people are going to pay 5? It ticks down to 4.75. How many people are going to buy there? And it's a great price discovery mechanism. So it started ticking down, and he, thankfully held one back for me. He said, hey, I'll just hold one back for you at whatever the floor ends up being. Yeah. So we saw them all, some sold it at 5, a chunk of them sold out at 3, and then they all went, I think, at about 1.5.
Wow.
And so got in the Discord, which is a members only Discord. And it was just really fun. I had a wonderful time just meeting everybody, and everyone's like fascinating. Like there was doctors, and there was developers, and there was, founders, and there was artists. And it was just like a really interesting, group of people.
Yeah, that is dope.
So I was just in the Discord, and I'm kind of a Discord newbie. So I kind of
regret like not knowing about this, because that's so dope.
Well, it's impossible to catch all these things. Like there's a bunch of projects that I missed out on. So so anyway, I'm in the Discord having fun, and my kids are like, "What? You're using Discord, Dad? This is so weird." I'm like, "Yeah, I know.
Our dad is cool."
I know. So then Kevin hits me up. He's like, hey, do you want to be a mod? I'm like, sure. I've got, nothing to do. Like, I'll be a mod.
Holy shit. That's so crazy. Yeah.
It's funny. So I started modding the server and having fun. And then I think it just hit me like, wait a minute. This is so much fun. Like, and I've been a CEO founder for like 20 years. Yeah. Like, I think I could help Kevin with this. So I just texted him. I was like, hey man, like, let me be your COO and help you run this thing. Like you need an experienced operator like me who can just crank, and let's go. Like, we're friends, and he texted me back. He's like, what, let's talk, call me. So we talked, and he's like, let's go. So decided to be the COO, the chief operating officer. And it's just a total blast. The crazy thing about this stuff is, I think the floor of the project now is like 30 ETH.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
that is
like
insane.
I don't know, like $90,000 or something. I mean, and Kevin and I and Justin, who run the project, are surprised and delighted. I mean, it's fascinating that people are finding true value in this community.
It started at like 3 ETH. Almost, right? What was the average price somebody paid? Probably around 3-ish ETH.
Yeah, 2-3 ETH.
So it started at 9,000. Now it's almost at 90,000. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and why is the question? Well, people truly value community. Yeah. We're releasing this big project called Grails. Grails is 21 artists dropping an NFT at the same time, and the members get to pick one, but they don't know who the artists are. They mint the NFT, and then they find out who the artist is. And Kevin has found, I think he has 3 of the top grossing NFT artists of all time in that
Oh
mix.
shit, Jesus!
Yeah.
Wow.
So
And when is this? When is Grails happening?
It's happening on Monday, the 28th, is when the public reveal is. So, we're just trying to create a lot of value for our members.
So it's a minting, right? So on the 28th is the minting is happening. This is not from the secondary market.
No. So what's going to happen is, there's 1,000 proof members. Each one gets one Grails mint. And as soon as they mint them, obviously they're going to start, some are going to hold, some are going to sell in secondary. So you'll start seeing these Grails hit the secondary market.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what kind of happens. But we have a bunch of plans in the future for proof that are just going to be super fun and cool.
Ryan, this is great for the people in the proof community. How do I get it? How does anybody in that is this like the ship has sailed? There's nothing.
No. So I can't say too much, but stay tuned.
Got it.
We're going to be announcing some exciting things on March 3rd. So stay tuned for March 3rd.
Okay. March 3rd. Got it. All right. I got it on my calendar. This is exciting.
Set it to do. It's going to be exciting.
Okay. And is there a place is there any Discord or any kind of, like when you say stay tuned, what does that mean? Like, where do we tune in?
where do you go? So follow proof_XYZ on Twitter, and Web3 and crypto, it all happens on Twitter. So it's all on Twitter. So follow us on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, just at Ryan Carson, follow Kevin Rose at Kevin Rose, and follow our other co-founder, Justin Mezzel, MEZZ, EL.
And what's his Twitter handle?
Justin Mezzel.
Justin Mezzel.
Yeah, we're all OG. So we'll be announcing, all of that. And it's going to be fun,
Damn. That's exciting. That is awesome.
I'm excited.
I love it. This is super cool. I think thanks for sharing this actually, because I think this could be a huge opportunity for anybody looking to get in this space. We're just curious, just looking to check it out, right? Because I think that's a big thing. I know I'll be checking my Twitter on March 3rd. This is cool. I want to do some rapid fire questions in the closing minutes.
Let's do it.
And feel free to say yes or no to any of these.
Okay.
Cool. So let's start off with the first one. Ryan, are you rich?
That's relative.
All right. Let's go on to the second question. What is the biggest regret you have?
Oh, that's a hard one. Oh boy. I have a lot of regrets. I think everybody has regrets, but they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
I would say, a funny one is like, I wish I wouldn't have lost my Bitcoin on Mt. Gox. But a more serious one is, I learned a lot being a CEO founder, and especially at Treehouse. And I think I wish I would have empowered people more, and trusted them to do their job. I think I micromanaged a lot. And I think looking back, I would empower and set people free more. It was a good lesson to learn.
That's deep. That's really helpful for me as well, actually. So I'll write that down. Okay. What is the biggest loss you've experienced in, let's say, a business or something along those lines?
Boy, I've missed deals that are worth $100 million. So, you see some big ones come by, some big ones come by sometimes, and you miss them, but you can't, hindsight's 2020. So
is it, to just give a general gist of that type of deal, is that like acquisition type of deal, or is this something else we're talking completely different?
Acquisition type stuff. Yeah. Being a founder is just so hard because no one knows the right answer. And when you are at the top,
so you had something on the table and you said no.
Yeah. So, that stuff happens, and it's because you think at the right time, at that moment, it's the right thing to do. And, and it could have been absolutely the right call. right? So you never really know. And one thing I'm learning how to do is look back on those kind of decisions and say, well, I don't know what would have happened if I would have said yes. I can't be assured that was actually a better outcome.
Yeah.
It could have been worse somehow.
Absolutely.
Just have to, just try to move on.
Wow. Ryan, I want to be respectful of your time. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being on here with us. Guys, if you like this, make sure you turn that button blue or white now that if you're on the dark theme on YouTube. Subscribe to the goddamn channel if you want to become a blockchain developer. Ryan, can you tell them to subscribe? They might not listen to me.
Please just subscribe right now. Just do it. You're gonna be so happy you did that.
Yeah. And you know what? Ryan is going to be giving you $100 in ETH. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do that.
That's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah. I'll pick a random person giving away $100 in ETH. If you like, subscribe, leave a comment. With that said, love you guys. And I'll see you in the next video.
What it do, what it does, where you been, where you was, but it ain't what it is. Face in the mud, I really be hating in the mud. Said I can't pick it up, but I did. Y'all know Goon put too much bass in the sub. Cup full of blood and I gave it a chug. Wait till your neighbors get up.